Did you know that in the United States, someone suffers a stroke every 40 seconds? And most of them are people over 60, those who may already be used to feeling tired, dizzy, or having brief headaches. The most alarming part? Up to 99% of seniors ignore the brain's early warning symptoms, thinking they're just normal signs of aging. Picture a familiar morning. You wake up, your head feels a bit heavy, your vision blurs for a few seconds, and your steps feel slightly unsteady. You tell yourself, probably just a bad night's sleep. Then you carry on with your day, coffee, newspaper, without realizing that in that very moment, your brain is crying for help. Just hours later, a real stroke could strike, stealing your smile, your voice, and the independence you've protected for years. According to the American Stroke Association, 1 in 3 people who experience warning symptoms will suffer a stroke within a year if left untreated. That means those small signals from the brain are often the very first alarm and possibly your last chance to protect yourself. The sad reality is most of us don't notice. We quickly dismiss those signs with harmless labels. Just aging, just tired, just lack of sleep. That very mindset has caused hundreds of thousands of Americans to miss the golden window to save their brains. I've met many patients or their families who tell me the same story. That day, it was just a little numbness in the hand, just slurred a few words, just felt more tired than usual. And then, just days later, they were rushed to the hospital with a full-blown stroke. Too late to turn things around. A stroke doesn't always arrive like in the movies, dropping you to the ground in an instant. Many times, it begins quietly, with a crooked smile, a blurred glance, or a step that goes off balance. The brain never lies. It always leaves a trace. The question is, will you listen?
In this video, we'll uncover the early brain warning symptoms that 99% of people over 60 often overlook. I'll explain why the brain sends these signals, why they're so easily mistaken for ordinary fatigue, and most importantly, what you need to do when you notice them. One of the reasons stroke is so dangerous is this: the brain doesn't cry out the way the heart does, or scream the way the stomach does. When the brain lacks blood flow, it doesn't send a clear, unmistakable signal that forces you to pay attention. Instead, its first warnings are often very subtle: a slight numbness in the hand, a brief blur in vision, or just a few seconds of slurred speech. And it is exactly this quietness that causes millions of people over 60 to miss the golden chance to stop a stroke before it strikes. There are 3 main reasons why early brain symptoms are so often overlooked. 1, they're fleeting. Many signs like tingling, confusion, or a crooked smile may last only a few minutes before disappearing. 2, they mimic aging or fatigue. Seniors are already familiar with being tired, losing sleep, feeling dizzy, or being forgetful. So when these symptoms appear, it's easy to blame them on age. 3, they don't cause pain or immediate crises. When the heart tightens in pain, you panic. When the stomach has an ulcer, it brings sharp agony. But when the brain is starved of blood, there is no obvious pain. The person can still walk, talk, and even insist they're fine. And when loved ones believe those words instead of noticing the face or movements, the brain's silent cry for help is missed. In the next part, we'll dive into the most common early brain warning symptoms, starting with sign 1, sudden numbness or weakness on one side of the body. One of the earliest and clearest signs of a stroke is the sudden onset of numbness or weakness on one side of the body, often in the face, arm, or leg. Our bodies function because the brain sends electrochemical signals down to the muscles. When blood flow, and with it, oxygen supply to a part of the brain is interrupted, those signals are immediately blocked. The result? Your arm may suddenly feel heavy, hard to lift. Your leg may lose strength, causing your steps to stumble. Half of your face may feel stiff, your smile uneven. What's especially important is that this symptom appears suddenly, within seconds or minutes. It's very different from sore muscles after heavy work or a foot falling asleep from sitting too long. With stroke, the numbness or weakness doesn't creep in gradually, it strikes without warning. And that is the brain's alarm bell that something is dangerously wrong.
Doctors recommend a simple test called the arm test. Ask the person you suspect of having a stroke to hold both arms straight out in front, palms facing up. If one arm is weaker or quickly drifts downward while the other stays up, that's a red flag requiring immediate emergency care. According to the NIH stroke scale, weakness on one side of the body is one of the gold standard indicators for identifying stroke in emergency rooms worldwide. And Harvard Medical School reports that more than 80% of stroke patients experienced weakness in an arm or leg within just 30 minutes before a full stroke occurred. So, if one side of your body suddenly loses strength, even for just a few minutes, never ignore it. It's not ordinary fatigue. It could be your brain's final warning before it's too late. Sign 2. Slurred or difficult speech. If one day you're talking normally and suddenly find yourself unable to pronounce words clearly, or your speech becomes slurred, jumbled, or distorted, that may be one of the earliest warning signs of a stroke. The brain controls language through several regions, especially in the left hemisphere. When blood flow to these areas is blocked, the language centers lose control, leading to difficulties such as trouble pronouncing words clearly, speech sounding as if the person were drunk, speaking slowly, stumbling over even simple words, using the wrong words, sentences coming out confused or hard to understand, knowing exactly what you want to say but being unable to get the words out. What makes this even scarier is that the person experiencing it often doesn't notice their own speech is off. They may think they are speaking clearly while listeners hear the obvious difference. This is why family members, friends, and bystanders play such a vital role in spotting the signs. There's a simple test you can use. Ask the person you suspect of having a stroke to repeat a short sentence, like, "The sky is blue today." If they can't say it smoothly or their words sound slurred or garbled, that's a red alert.
According to the American Stroke Association, speech problems, including slurred or difficult speech, appear in nearly 40% of early stroke cases. It's also one of the classic signs included in the well-known FAST test: face, arm, speech, time. So if you or someone close to you suddenly begins to slur words, stutter, or speak strangely for no clear reason, treat it as a direct warning from the brain. Don't dismiss it as just a dry throat or just tired. Take action immediately, because even a few minutes of delay can change an entire life. Sign 3. Sudden memory loss. It's normal after 60 to occasionally misplace your keys or forget the name of an acquaintance. But if you suddenly can't remember where you are, fail to recognize loved ones standing right in front of you, or keep asking the same question over and over within minutes, this is no longer just aging. It may be a sign that your brain is experiencing a temporary lack of blood flow. When circulation to the brain is disrupted, especially in the temporal lobe, which is responsible for short-term memory, you may experience transient memory loss. Common signs include forgetting something that happened just a few minutes ago, stopping in the middle of an activity and forgetting what you were doing, not remembering the way home even on a familiar route, repeating the same question or statement even after being given an answer. The key difference here, this is not dementia, which develops slowly over years. Instead, it's sudden, short-term, and often resolves quickly. But precisely because it seems temporary, many dismiss it as fatigue or simply old age. Sign 4. Sudden loss of balance or severe dizziness. Feeling a little dizzy or unsteady can happen to anyone, especially after 60. But if dizziness strikes suddenly, severely, and without explanation, it may be the brain's urgent warning of a stroke. The reason lies in blood flow to the cerebellum, the part of the brain that controls balance and coordination. When it's deprived of oxygen, you may experience walking straight but suddenly stumbling as if you were drunk. The sensation that the entire room is spinning even while sitting still. Losing control over fine movements like buttoning a shirt or holding a pen. The danger is that many people assume this is just vertigo, low blood pressure, or just aging. But the truth is, if dizziness occurs alongside weakness in an arm or leg, slurred speech, or blurred vision, it's almost certainly a warning that the brain is being starved of blood. If you or someone close to you suddenly cannot walk steadily, stand upright, or feel the world spinning out of control, treat it as an emergency. Don't wait for it to pass on its own. Act immediately, because sometimes even a single fall is enough to rob the brain of its chance to recover. Sign 5. Sudden changes in vision. The eyes are often called the windows to the soul, but they are also mirrors of brain health. One of the early warning signs of stroke is a sudden change in vision, sometimes in one eye, sometimes in both. A person may experience sudden blurriness, as if a fog has covered the eyes, double vision, where objects appear to overlap, temporary vision loss in one eye, as if a curtain has been pulled down. This condition is known as amaurosis fugax. The cause is simple, yet dangerous. When blood flow to the retina, or the brain's visual center, is blocked, the eyes don't receive enough oxygen and nutrients. Within minutes, vision can be dramatically affected. The frightening part? Even if your eyesight returns to normal after a few minutes, your brain has just sent you a red alert. Many mistake this for eye strain, cataracts, or simply aging. But the crucial difference is this: stroke-related vision changes happen suddenly and severely, not gradually over time. So if you suddenly experience blurred vision, double vision, or temporary darkness in one eye, do not dismiss it. It may be your brain's silent cry for help, warning that blood flow to the eyes and brain is being blocked. Act immediately, because while sight can sometimes return, damaged brain cells never come back. Sign 6. Sudden, severe headache. Headaches are common. Almost everyone has them from time to time. But there's one type of headache you must never ignore: a sudden, intense headache that feels unlike anything you've had before. This may be an early warning sign of stroke. According to the Cleveland Clinic, stroke-related headaches are often described as a bolt of pain, like a thunderclap striking inside the head, a sensation that the head is about to explode, or as if hit with a hard object. Pain spreads across the head, sometimes accompanied by nausea, vomiting, or confusion. The key detail: a stroke headache is often the worst headache you've ever had. Patients may say, "This is the most terrible headache I've ever had." It is completely different from tension headaches, lack of sleep, or even migraines. The reason lies in the brain's blood vessels. When one becomes blocked or bursts, pressure inside the brain rises rapidly, triggering pain receptors. This pain is not just uncomfortable, it is a serious warning that the brain is in danger.
Sign 7. Numbness or pins and needles sensation. You've probably felt your leg fall asleep after sitting too long, or your hand goes numb from leaning on it. Normally, once you change position, the feeling quickly goes away. But if numbness strikes suddenly, for no clear reason, and happens on just one side of the body, it may be a warning that the brain is not getting enough blood. During a stroke, the parts of the brain that control sensation lose proper blood flow. As a result, signals from the skin, muscles, and nerves don't fully reach the brain, leading to unusual feelings such as tingling, like ants crawling under the skin, pins and needles, or mild electric shock sensations, loss of the ability to feel hot versus cold, or light versus heavy pressure in one arm or leg. Unlike numbness from sitting too long or poor posture, stroke-related numbness does not go away when you shift position. It may begin in the fingers or toes, then spread up the arm, leg, or even one side of the face. Some people also notice sudden clumsiness, dropping objects, struggling to hold a glass, or difficulty typing. Remember, if one side of your body suddenly feels numb or strangely pins and needles, treat it as a red alert. Don't sit and wait for it to fade. When half of your body begins to lose connection with the brain, you may only have a short window to prevent permanent damage. Sign 8. Sudden changes in emotion or personality. We often think stroke only affects movement or speech, but the truth is, when blood flow to the brain is disrupted, emotions and personality can also shift suddenly. This is a warning sign that is often overlooked but critically important. The brain doesn't just control arms, legs, and language. It also regulates emotions. When the frontal lobe or the limbic system is affected, a person may suddenly show unusual irritability, snapping or lashing out at loved ones, sadness or hopelessness without a clear reason, anxiety, panic, or even sudden panic attacks, apathy, indifference, or loss of interest in activities once enjoyed. What makes families dismiss this sign is the belief that it's just aging or a bad mood today. But in reality, when emotions change abruptly, especially if combined with other symptoms like slurred speech, numbness, or dizziness, it's very likely the brain is being starved of blood.
A 2018 report in Stroke Patients Review found that nearly 30% of stroke patients experienced marked mood or behavior changes in the week before their stroke. Unfortunately, most were ignored, mistaken for depression, anxiety, or simple fatigue. That's why if a loved one over 60 suddenly seems not themselves, their personality shifts quickly. They become unusually irritable or sink into sudden sadness. Take it seriously. Don't brush it off as old age or temporary mood swings. It could be the brain's silent cry for help, signaling that a stroke may be just around the corner. Sign 9. Unusual extreme fatigue. Feeling tired is common after 60, especially if you've had a poor night's sleep or overexerted yourself. But if you suddenly feel completely drained, wiped out, with no energy at all, even when you haven't done anything strenuous, take it seriously. This can be one of the brain's early warnings of stroke. Unlike ordinary tiredness, stroke-related fatigue usually comes on suddenly, intensely, and without a clear reason. You might wake up after a full night's sleep, yet feel weighed down, your eyes heavy, and walking just a few steps may feel like running a marathon. Some people describe it as, "It was like all the strength in my body was sucked out in an instant." The reason is that when a blood vessel in the brain becomes blocked, the brain doesn't get enough oxygen to function. Since the brain consumes up to 20% of the body's energy, even a few minutes of reduced blood flow can leave you completely exhausted. This is the body's way of pulling the emergency alarm, warning that the brain is in trouble. The key detail: if you feel overwhelming fatigue that does not improve with rest, especially if it's accompanied by other signs like numbness, slurred speech, or blurred vision, treat it as a red alert. Don't wait to feel better. With stroke, every minute of delay means millions of brain cells die, and you may lose your chance at full recovery forever. Sign 10. Fainting or temporary loss of consciousness.
Fainting can happen for many reasons: low blood pressure, dehydration, or standing up too quickly. But if you're over 60 and suddenly lose consciousness for a few seconds or minutes, especially if it happens alongside other neurological symptoms, treat it as an emergency signal from the brain. During a stroke, blood flow to the brain, particularly the brain stem, which controls consciousness and many vital functions, may be disrupted. When this happens, you may experience sudden lightheadedness with vision going dark, loss of balance, collapsing to the ground, brief loss of consciousness followed by regaining awareness. Unlike fainting from standing up too quickly, stroke-related fainting strikes suddenly, without much warning. It may also come with other classic stroke signs, such as severe dizziness, slurred speech, weakness on one side of the body, or facial drooping. According to Johns Hopkins Medicine, temporary loss of consciousness during a TIA, mini-stroke, or stroke is less common, but it is always considered a medical emergency. That's because if the brainstem is affected, even a few minutes of delay can lead to respiratory failure, coma, or death. The danger is that many people, after regaining consciousness, brush it off. It was just a faint spell. I'll be fine after some rest. But in reality, this might have been the last chance to prevent a major stroke. If you or a loved one suddenly pass out for no obvious reason, don't hesitate. Treat it as the brain's cry for help and call 911 immediately. In the battle against stroke, every single minute determines survival. 99% of people over 60 ignore the brain's warning signs because they feel fine, don't want to bother others, fail to notice changes in their own face or body, blame it on aging or fatigue, or simply lack knowledge about the early symptoms.
Each of these reasons may seem reasonable at the moment, but when added together, they become the very cause of why 99% of seniors miss the golden chance to save their brain. Recognizing and overcoming these psychological traps is the first step toward taking timely action when stroke comes knocking. After learning about the warning signs of stroke, you might be thinking, how can I possibly remember all of this in an emergency? The good news is you don't have to. Doctors have condensed everything into one extremely simple test called the FAST test. F. Face. Ask the person to smile. If one side of the face droops, the smile looks uneven, or one eye doesn't close properly, it's a clear warning sign. A. Arm. Ask them to raise both arms in front of them. If one arm feels weak, drifts downward, or cannot be lifted at all, that's a red flag. S. Speech. Have them repeat a short sentence, such as, "The sky is blue today." If their words are slurred, jumbled, or they use the wrong words, it means the brain is not getting enough blood. T. Time. If you see any of these signs, don't wait. Call 911 immediately. The faster the response, the greater the chance of saving the brain. The brain is extremely sensitive to oxygen loss. Every minute that passes, about 1.9 million brain cells die, and they never come back. That's why doctors call the first 3 hours after a stroke begins the golden window. If treated within this period, many patients can recover almost completely. But if delayed beyond 5 hours, the chance of recovery drops below 20%. In reality, according to the National Stroke Association, more than 50% of stroke patients arrive at the hospital too late, mostly because of hesitation or not recognizing the symptoms. This means thousands lose their one chance to preserve their ability to walk, speak, and live independently. FAST is not just a test, it's a matter of life and death. Teach it to your children, your friends, and remember it yourself, because sometimes all it takes is one person knowing FAST to save a life. Knowing the signs is the first step, but more importantly, you need to know exactly what to do the moment you suspect a stroke.
1. Call 911 immediately. Do not drive yourself. Always wait for emergency services. 2. Do not drive yourself. Always wait for emergency services. 3. Monitor your blood pressure and blood sugar daily. 4. Adopt healthy lifestyle changes. Quit smoking, limit alcohol, and eat balanced meals. 5. Stay physically active with light, regular exercise. 6. Schedule routine checkups to catch risks early. Remember, taking action now is the greatest gift you can give yourself and your family. Every small step is like a brick in the wall that protects your brain from stroke. We've just gone through the most important lessons together, from the 10 brain warning signs most often overlooked to the reasons why 99% of people over 60 failed to recognize them, and finally, the urgent steps you must take to protect yourself. What I want you to hold on to is not every medical detail, but one very simple truth. Every small change in your body, especially in the brain and face, is never just small. It may be your last chance to stop a stroke from stealing your smile, your voice, and the independence you've preserved your entire life. Please, share this video with your friends, neighbors, and loved ones, especially those over 60. Who knows, with just one share, you could save a life. And if you found this content helpful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Let's build a community of seniors who are strong, sharp, and independent. Because sometimes, just by noticing a smile, a glance, or a single step, you could save an entire lifetime.